What is up, folks? Casual Dad here with another, well, actually, something a little different today. So, what I'm looking at is d4planner.io, which is the handy dandy website that some wonderful plucky fan put together that's an actual recreation of the Diablo 4 skill tree. So, you can actually go ahead and take a look at this in advance and kind of scratch the itch while we're waiting for Diablo 4 to actually come out. It's really handy, it's interactive, it's exactly like you would actually see in game. So it's been really fun to kind of play with this. So what we're looking at right now is a build that I did with the Druid. I'm just going to run through that real quick, and then I'm also going to cover the Necromancer. And depending on interest, or if I just want to get around to it, I'll tackle the other classes as well. Just as kind of a way to look through this and kind of plan out and get excited about the launch of Diablo 4 in June. I may also stretch it out a bit because we do have a ways to go before then. So anyway, what you're seeing is the full skill tree for Druid, pre-built out with the talents that I chose, and you're seeing that the max level is 58. I can reset here or change to a different class, no problem, or change different traits, and you can mouse over these individual traits to see what it does. And you can see here that the build I've actually put together is really focused on Werewolf. So I played Druid when it first came out in Lord of Destruction, the Diablo 2 expansion, way back in the day. And it just really never got there. It always fell flat, and it was pretty good up until mid-game and super, super fun. I understand in later patches you could do a rabies druid, and it was pretty effective, but I never did it myself. So when I got the druid in Diablo 4, the first thing I did was pop up the wolf and hope that I could kind of redeem that legacy of failure. But yeah, so we'll talk about the build in detail, but just kind of zooming back a little bit. In each class, you start with one of a certain, I think they're all 5, core classes, and that's your primary attack that you do to charge up your base resource that you use kind of to sort of set the theme of your build. And then each of these has individual keywords. So here this is basic, which is what this top ring is going to be, and it's werewolf and shapeshifting. So if other cards or if other abilities down the way reference a specific keyword, that's where you can see what it applies to. And so werewolf, what it does, you click the attack, you shift into a werewolf very quickly, and you just wail on stuff with your claws. You can also do werebear. You can also do storm strike with lightning. You can also do a different kind of like air nature magic. Those are both storm type, which is interesting, or rock. And so you can kind of set your theme depending on what theme you want to build around everything. The way I usually start this is you look at your basic skills first, which one seems the most exciting to you. And one of the cool things is that early levels you get free respecs. So you can just respec your skills and try some things out until you get past kind of the tutorial areas of the game. So don't worry about trying some of these in advance when you're playing the game, just to see which ones you really like, and then you can build into later. So I start first by looking at your base skills to set that tone, see kind of what you're interested in first, and then jump all the way to the bottom here to see your ultimate skills and look at what you want to build to, because you only get one of those. You're gonna, wow, I don't even have one selected. You only get one ultimate skill. You're gonna end up using it. And so you can kind of look at this. So let's pull off one of these. And on this, you left click to assign a point, and you right click to withdraw a point. So I just withdrew one from, let's see. I don't need that. So looking at the ultimates, I'm focusing on shapeshifting. I personally am leaning on werewolf. So this right here, if you stay a werewolf, so to stay a werewolf, you use werewolf attack abilities, and if you chain those, you can stay werewolf kind of indefinitely in between fights. During fights, you can stay werewolf indefinitely. So this staying for 2.5 seconds, you'll ramp up in the middle of a fight. So that's good. Bonus attack speed, always good. The werewolf really emphasizes attack speed and critical hits, where the werebear emphasizes really durability, and the other skill trees I didn't look into that much, just because they weren't necessarily my interest. But yeah, so well, hang on. So wolf was more about attack speed. Bear is more about damage, but also durability. A lot of the secondary traits for werewolf are critical hits, more attacks, and then summoning wolves, of course. Whereas werebear, it's mostly defensive abilities and then just damage buffs. So attack speed versus damage. So there's this one I could take, or there's also this one, which just, there are a lot of skills leading up to this that build into critical hits, so I believe this is the one I ended up taking. It's every 6, so you get automatic critical hits every 6th hit, in addition to the ones that you're doing anyway, so your random chance one. So that one's really, really good, but I really like the attack speed, so I'm going to go with the Rampage one. And I still have 2 skill points built up, so I'll pop those back in here. So we'll rewind a bit. So you start with your basic skills, then you look at your ultimates and kind of build everything else in between with those two in mind. You can build this any way you want. So the way you're building this, you can see this kind of red trough shows the skill paths that you've unlocked. So I'm going to run through the skill tree I did real quick, and then we'll kind of build it out from scratch to see another one, just to do it. So basic attack, it shows Claw. That's the first shape-shifting attack you use to turn into a werewolf. Jump to a werewolf, attack. And it does just a flat buff to your basic damage and has a lucky hit chance to do an extra powerful attack. You get that one trait, and you can see that can have up to 5 ranks in it. When you're starting out the game, you'd really probably start with 1 and not rank into that very much unless you had less stuff to spend points into. And then you have these sub-trees, and this is where it immediately gets interesting, is they have branches where you can't do both of these. You have to do one or the other and not both. So I went with just the basic Claw. I went with the increased attack speed of 10%, because why would you not? I would actually do that before I did an additional rank to Claw, personally. So if you're early level, that's my first move, is faster attacks. And then I had the option to either do Poison, and there is a Poison build you could do as well, but I went with the chance to attack twice. Possibility of a double attack. You want to hit fast, fast, fast with a lot of the werewolf builds that focus on critical hits. Increases your critical hit chance, and then just has an extra chance to do more of your potential bonus hits or lucky hits. Cruising on, as you're filling in these points, you'll see this blood kind of fill in here to unlock the next tree, and that's right here. And now you only get 58 skill points, and you can see with the things that have multiple ranks or the trees off them, it's very easy to spend 58 skill points very quickly, and that's max level. So you have fewer points getting to places. So you want to be really efficient with these, which I kind of love because there's a ton of different ways to spread these out and build your character, but it's also a bit of a bummer because you end up not doing skills. So that adds a huge amount of replayability to each class because you can do something totally different the other time you play. Or you could beat it and then be like, I like this, but I'm going to just pay the extra gold to respec and do something different. So next tree, I went straight to my Shred. This is where you get your activated abilities. So you got your left clicks up here and then kind of your right clicks here. And then you also have the hotkeyed abilities where you get a couple other active abilities. So this has a chance for a bonus powerful hit, and then also gives you a kind of 3-hit punch. So this really benefits from the increased attack speed because the faster you're attacking, the more quickly you'll go through this 3 punch. And if you hit this twice, if you have the ultimate that does the critical hit, your 6th one, your second attack with Shred, should be a critical hit automatically. And so this is awesome. And I have not actually used this personally, so I don't really know. Well, I guess I did. I don't know how fast it is, so that is my concern. So that's another reason to ramp up that attack speed. So that's, again, a core skill. So this is basic skill, this is a core skill, and that's that green keyword right in the upper middle there. And then the tree off this one, I went with Enhanced Shred, which gives you a greater attack speed, which is great because it is a 3-attack combo, so you can get stuck in the middle of it. And also adds healing to it, which will help a lot with that sustain. So this is just a complete no-brainer for that. And then there's the option to do another Poison, so you can do the Poison build on that tree, or you can do a dash to add some mobility to this, which of course attack speed and mobility go together hand in hand. If I do additional trait, you can actually add this higher, and then just in the top you'll see it goes, I have 60 out of 58 total points. But you can add this up to see what it would be if you add more points. So it's just small percentage bonuses to, well, actually fairly reasonable percentage bonuses to the attack itself. So it would be worth tweaking this to get more stat points into that. You can see I left the rest of these basically untouched. There is the option of this one. Most classes have the option where you can take a point here to increase your maximum utility resource by 3. Even the 10, like your base I want to say is 100. So even increasing it by 9 is just not very impressive. So I'd take the 1 to then unlock these, because these can be really good. So this one, this Wild Impulse, is the same like Glass Cannon thing where you do, like this can be extremely powerful, where your core skills will cost more resource but do a significant amount more damage. Always worth considering. I didn't take that just because I didn't really have the points for it. And that also gives you the option to counteract that. I believe you can do both. Yeah, so here you can do both sides of the tree, whereas here I can't. Yeah. So here I could level up both of these where you do the increased damage and offset that by having higher resource generation. So right clicking to clear these out. Yeah, I didn't go with that just because of shortage on points, otherwise I would have. In my first build I did, but then I ran out of points later. I did go with this one. So you increase your critical strike chance. I actually changed back to that after I saw that ultimate that gives you the automatic critical hits. So the more critical hits you get, the more damage, like it really ramps up quickly. The more stuff you can stack on to get critical hits is awesome. So then we went to bonus move speed while you're in werewolf form, which I'm taking entirely werewolf skills, so I'll spend most of my time in werewolf form. And then also gives you the 3-second bonus. And this, yeah, so the move speed is really handy to keep you going punch to punch, especially tapped with the dash and the heal from your shred, so that first active skill. So we're looking at early level here. This is a really powerful starting build. It's still the downside, the weakness of the shapeshifting druid is always going to be single target focus. So it has trouble dealing with hordes, so you really want to focus on your single target damage so you can take things down quickly and clear through mobs quickly so you're not overrun. But that is helped a little bit with later skills. But if you do a caster druid, you get a completely different feel, and you end up with something that can crowd control a little better, but isn't quite as like feral and fast and wild and punchy. So I enjoyed that. So this next tree, I basically ignored all of this. Again, you've got that theme where you've got your earth, your air, your bear, your wolf are kind of your options here, and then your sort of passive skills. It would be really, really good to add the non-physical resistance. That's your magical resistance. I didn't put points in that again just because I was kind of point starved, so I focused on speed, attack speed, and healing to kind of counteract that instead. And then this one, the damage reduction after using a defensive skill. I don't think I have any defensive skills in this build, which is a bit of a bummer. But yeah, so I didn't do that. But I did take Blood Howl, which is another active. Oh, it is defensive. There we go. Actually, all of these are. Yeah, okay, so this is your defensive tree where all of these abilities are defense. Oh, hello. Each of these has a category. Spirit, defensive, basic. Nice. All right. Well, hey, I learned something. Shame on me for not checking that before. But yeah, so there is a bonus here where you do get a flat damage reduction after using your defense skill that goes up to, let's see how high that gets. 15%, which is not nothing. That's really pretty great. Very nice. Especially if you have trouble surviving, putting all 6 points into this would be a big buff, because you just get a flat non-physical magic resistance, and then you also get damage resistance when you use these abilities, which you're going to. They're defensive but also have some punch. Like right here, this just has a heal ability, but then the branching tree makes it happen more often, and then you can either then increase your attack speed again, which is great. That stacks with the other stuff you have to make you just a whirlwind, or you can also generate additional resources. Which, I mean, if you're resource starved, you can do it, but most of this is going to be just giving passive buffs to your claw, so you'll end up doing okay on spirit. Next, this is the summoning, which is companion tree, which is pretty freaking sweet. It is a bummer that this is so late, because I did already kind of touch on druid really struggling. If you do a shapeshifting druid, you do struggle with crowd control, and so I really leaned hard into my wolves because it's in theme. It's my companion. You can actually do any number of these, so you could just do straight summoner. We just stop at the companion tree and just end up with all of these. I don't think you can have all of them up at once, but I haven't tested that. But this would let me have 2 wolves that do relatively minor damage, but they are there to help just with crowd control, distract enemies, and they have some other benefits as well. So the passive ability, you just have some wolves with you all the time, which is awesome. And they have a bonus hit chance, and then you can actively direct them to attack an enemy too. So if there's something low health that's running away and getting away from you, or something sniping at you, you can send your wolves to attack it while you're busy kind of wherever you are, which is awesome. I used that activated ability a ton in Diablo 3. With the Diablo 3 Necromancer, you charge your skeletons at the thing you needed to kill, so that's great. It also will help you kind of double down on a boss or a champion if you're taking something down, so that's a handy ability. Next, we're looking at your enhanced packs. They do significant extra damage. This specifically mentions poisoned, so that's something definitely to note, where if you do a poison build, that's a really, really powerful buff, because that's a giant bonus to their damage, almost triples it. Or it goes from an 8% bonus to a 28% bonus, so it's a significant bonus. Not triple, but still good. And then you can either give them a kind of a defensive thing where they will automatically give you a damage resistance, or when you critically strike and they attack faster, which of course is the theme of my thing, so I've got a big emphasis on critical strikes and attack speed, which also will then feed into the wolves to make them very scary as well. So that was the track I took. I also took this guy here just to give them a flat bonus damage, just because that's handy no matter which companion you go with. And then there were options here to give them If you're doing a caster build, that one's really nice to do long range damage, especially if a lot of the elemental attacks that Druid has do a lot of status effects, so that's awesome. And that is times 3%, so it is a pretty significant buff. Let's see what that ends up being. Yeah, I mean, it's small, but it's another thing that, yeah, so it'd be a 20% bonus against a status affected enemy far away. So very good if you're a long range caster. And then this one, when you transform to human, so that's if you have a shape-shifting skill, but then use non-shape-shifting skills, it will transform you back to a human, so back and forth. You can really cheese that because there are abilities that trigger when you transform into either beast form or into a human, so you can really do that, but I was just focusing on my beast form here, so I didn't touch it. Keeping on going, you can also have a vine, which is from Diablo 2, which is kind of a fun thing, just this weird sort of ground grass worm that just follows you around and does crazy stuff. Really great in a caster build because it has a lot of passive buffs to your stats, or your resources rather, but not as much fun as just a pack of wolves, at least in this build. And then we're getting to our Wrath. This is where you get your kind of heavier activated abilities. Really a lot of places you can sink points here, so I had to get very, very careful here. You've got the option of Werebear, let's see, yeah, extra healing for your Werebear. Become unstoppable with your Werebear, so you can't be stunned or trimmed down or pinned down or anything. And then of course the poisoned enemies slowed by, so that was a bit of an odd take. I went ahead and took that. I may change that around, but I did it because of rabies, because rabies is the wrath ability here that I would use. So I have a poison ability, so I could respec this to focus more on poison, but I opted to just have it be this and sink some points into rabies. So this is a poison attack. It's a physical attack that it also spreads poison to additional enemies nearby this, and then the upgrade to this. So this one does enemies are slowed when poisoned, awesome, and then also they take additional critical strike damage, which is actually one of the reasons I opted to take this, because that is very much in theme with the rest of the build. So you get poison, it spreads a bunch, and then you can just like wail on things with those critical strikes. So this does a poison spreading attack, and then poisoning damage also increases over the lifetime, so it does additional damage the longer the enemy is poisoned. So you poison them early and then just wail on them and they take additional poison. Then you can either have the damage deal spread faster, so it jumps from target to target faster, or you can have it deal damage in 2/3 of the total time, so do a lot of damage faster. I opted for that. I could go either way on that. It really depends on what you're fighting. So if you're fighting something big, you want to take it down quickly. If you're fighting a big mob, you want to clear through it faster. So I think that if the crowd control element of the Werewolf Druid ends up being a challenge, I would switch this. So I'd switch to the faster spreading rather than the slower or the faster acting. But yeah, so we're skipping ahead there. Next tree is going to be your ultimate ability. So your true like ends here, key passives, the kind of, I called them your ultimates, they're your kind of top tier abilities. Those are all passive. They all have some impact that is passive. But this is going to be your ultimate activated abilities. And so obviously I went with my werewolf themed one, which is going to be shapeshift to a werewolf, become immune, quickly dash 10 times. So it's like the old monk ability from Diablo 3, where you just disappear and then punch a bunch of things in a circle. It's basically that, where you just leap around and do a bunch of damage, and do a lot of bonus damage. This is fantastic, especially on top of your other critical hit bonuses, your other attack speed bonuses, the bonuses with your passive wolves. They also will get bonuses from this. This is really powerful, like capstone on the ability. And then also you get your you heal for it, so you become more or less invulnerable because you're immune. And then you can also heal while doing it, so it's a nice way to top yourself off while doing this damage. And each time it deals a critical strike, so it combos with that critical strike build. And then the initial strike is guaranteed to critically strike, so you just get it. You will heal on that first hit no matter what, and then your additional hits have a high chance of healing as well. So super cool. If you take Lacerate, you do kind of want to get up to that ultimate tier there. And then on these, so this one is, I'm a little bit iffy on this. This would be from when you switch from human to werewolf would be when this triggers. So I'm kind of not sure. So if you're just walking around the tundra, most of the time you won't be a werewolf until you actually get in a fight. So when you first initiate a fight, this will trigger. So I was a little iffy about that. And then you also get a defensive buff, and then you also get a damage reduction. So this is good. I think there are better ways to spend the points. I would probably redo that. And then, of course, we already talked about the ultimate that... Well, actually, hang on. So the ultimate, the attack speed or the... I think I've been talking a lot about critical strikes. I would probably go with this one. Yeah, and I can go either way on that because you already have critical strike bonus, but that automatic, and it's 6 werewolf skill hit. So when you're doing your lacerate over here, if you're hitting 10 times, every 6 you are guaranteed your first one, and one of your next 10 will also be a critical strike. So you're going to get at least a 6% heal, and then all the additional effects you get from that as well. So that's great. And then in addition to your other abilities, your basic attack, every 6th attack is automatically critical strike, which is fantastic with the rest of the build. So that's your werewolf build. I wanted to look into that. I would also look into just a pure storm build, but it's pretty cool. I really like this. I played druid, played it in the beginning. It did feel significantly weaker than necromancer, which was the other one I ended up playing. But I think part of that may have been it just takes a while to ramp up. I think caster druid is going to be extremely powerful, and I hope that werewolf or werebear druid still ends up being very powerful at higher levels, above the level cap where you can start really leaning on those summons. The companions can have a big impact on this, so can your later skills and abilities. I still am a little concerned it's going to fall a little bit short. Of course, we're still looking at sort of beta stage. They're a couple of months out for things to be tweaked, and they may still be tweaked more after launch. So hopefully all builds end up being viable so that people that really want to live their werewolf face-eating... There's no way to end that sentence that's good, so we'll just skip over that. Anyway, if you want to play werewolf and be effective with that build, I hope that the designers and developers are aware of that to the point where they'll balance it out if it's a little flimsy at first. Definitely something I'm going to try because it feels very fun and very fast. And you definitely need a little bit of extra speed in Diablo 4 to kind of cruise through those fights and get to those big story moments, which I was really enjoying. So that's it. We'll keep it. We'll stop it there. I am going to revisit the necromancer skill tree later on, and I'm probably also going to look at another build of druid, and then we'll see where we touch on the others. I'm just focusing on the things that I'm personally interested in playing. But yeah, we'll go from there. If you got any questions or if there's anything in particular you want to see, drop me a note or a comment, and I'll try to hit that next. Appreciate the time, and have a good one.